Hello and welcome back to the book set Completionist. My name is still Tom, and today we're at episode 25. Never in my wildest dreams had I ever imagined that I could be the host of a super successful YouTube channel. Ever since I was a little boy, I dreamed about this. Now it's a reality. 25 episodes. My gosh. What an achievement. Right, so to commemorate this special occasion, I have dug up the most expansive set in my collection. Well, that's not true, but it's a big one. Look at that. How many is this? 13! 13 parts in this series. But before I go into this, there's also a review, 2 reviews of science fiction novels. Stick around to watch those. This, yes. Okay, what do we have here? These books were published between the years 2004 and 2020, and they are in the genre of historical fiction, and they have been adapted in a Netflix series. Okay, historical fiction specifically about the era of, around the year 900 AD. Okay. In the United Kingdom, what is now the United Kingdom, but what wasn't before, the history of that land, Vikings, Saxons. The author of these books has written in other time eras, also historical fiction. His name is Bernard Cornwell. Yes, I don't think he's written any, well, he has written about, I'm not sure if this is his biggest set, but just let's see what it is then. Yes, can I show you? Any more hints? Oops, this one is upside down. Ugh. The series is named after the first book, which is The Last Kingdom. And here they are. Okay. Pretty cool. So what do we have here? Last Kingdom, The Pale Horseman, Lords of the North, Sword Song, Burning Land, Death of Kings, Pagan Lord, Empty Throne, Warriors of the Storm, Flame Bearer, War of the Wolves, Sword of Kings, and Warlord. Well, aren't these titles that evoke some feeling of action? If nothing else. Okay, let's take a closer look then. I'm sure there's maps. Then let's take a look at each individual book and see which cover is the best. Starting with The Last Kingdom. This one has the guy from the series on the cover, so it's a newer edition, and I'm not a fan of covers like this. Why do I have to see an actor? But right, there are maps, because historical fiction wouldn't be complete without maps. And so it all takes place in Great Britain, and along the way he moves on to different places. So in this one, The Pale Horseman, he moves to an area in the southwest. Oh, it's over here. And so each book has a different map, but it's all part of the same country. Lords of the North. Zooms out again. Sword Song. Focuses on London, as it was during that time. There. The Burning Land has an interesting map because it's got my country in it. There. Something happens, he has to leave Great Britain, cross the North Sea, and end up where? Is that my country over here? Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay. The Death of Kings. Then here he goes back. And here we are back in the UK. Okay. Then we've got the Pagan Lord. Same thing. Empty throne, still sealed. I'm not going to open that. Warriors of the Storm. I'm just focusing the map. Same map. Okay. The Flame Bearer. Same map. War of the Wolf, also still sealed. Sword of Kings. You're focusing in, zooming in on this area. And finally, part 13, Warlord. Okay, zooming out again. Going back north. Okay. So what? You can choose for yourself which cover is the best. I recommend you guys to read this, although I haven't yet. I'm sure it's going to be great based on the series. You cannot go wrong. Right, then this book. Oh my gosh. I have to admit I was kind of tricked into buying this based on the cover because it's got Isaac Asimov's name on it, and if you don't know who that guy is, he's one of the most famous science fiction authors in history. Yes, can say that. And there's a dinosaur and a robot. Now, come on. The inner boy in me could not refuse such an amazing cover, but I should have known better. But what can I say? Now, what is this? Isaac Asimov's Robots in Time, subtitled Predator by Mr. William F. Wu. It's not a famous author at all. I don't think he has written much. But he was apparently allowed to take the ideas of Mr. Asimov and use them to write that. Right? What is it about? As the title suggests, there are robots in it and there's time travel in it. Okay? The book uses robot characters from Asimov's universe, the Foundation trilogy, and also, I think, what are the robots in the Foundation trilogy? And the other books in the Foundation series. Still haven't read those, but there are, I'm looking at them over there, the books about robots, iRobot, that was made into a movie, so if you've seen that, you might remember that robots in these books have to follow a specific set of laws. 3 of them. 3 laws. The first law states that a robot has to protect a human being at all costs, so he cannot do anything that harms a human being or even kills it in a way. The second law is that he has to obey human orders unless they conflict with the first law. So, for example, he cannot, you cannot tell a robot to kill a human because he would refuse. And the third law is that a robot cannot harm himself and should try to preserve his own life unless, again, that conflicts with laws 2 and 1. Okay, remember that. The main character here is a robot who has to track down another robot. I guess that's why it's called also Predator, although somebody who hunts another being is not necessarily a predator, but okay. What's going on? In the far future, we live underground in cities that are self-contained, super high-tech advanced technology, and there is a leader of each city has a leader, and the leader is a very sophisticated robot. But one day, the robot discovers that he's malfunctioning, and he will probably be decommissioned. And so that's where the third law kicks in. The third law says that a robot has to preserve himself, and in order to do that, he runs away. He doesn't wait for the guys to come and take him apart. He flees. He does so in a very interesting way. He uses a machine that can miniaturize him, make him microscopically small. And for some reason, also, the process triggers time travel capabilities. And he travels back to the age of the dinosaurs. Okay. He figures that as long as he's there, he cannot hurt anything or anyone with his malfunctioning body and brain. So that's what he does. However, the organization that tries to catch him figures out that by traveling back in time, he might disturb the order of the past, the so-called butterfly effect. You might change a little bit in the past, but that spirals into massive ramifications along history, and eventually could even lead to, well, anything, even the extinction of the human race. So with that in mind, another robot is being sent after the first robot. This second robot uses a couple of human beings as his team because he doesn't know everything and he thinks humans can help him somehow. And then they also miniaturize themselves and go back to the time of the dinosaurs to try and capture that fugitive robot. Sounds interesting. However, a lot of the stuff in there doesn't make sense. The characters are pretty bad. For some reason, one of them is a terrible bully, has to make fun of one other character all the time, really without reason. And at first, they are super careful not to disturb anything, hence, remember the butterfly effect? But as the story progresses, they just forget about that, and I guess Mr. Wu forgot about that, because they use all sorts of crazy methods to try and capture that robot. For example, they try to domesticate dinosaurs. Yeah, for real. They try to basically use them as horses to capture that fleeing robot, who for some reason stays in the same place. Oh, by the way, the miniaturization effect has a temporary nature that this first robot did not know about. And so after a while, he pops up, and the chasing robot and his human friends are trying to catch him by employing dinosaurs. And not even just dinosaurs, but all of the dinosaurs they can see. They, at some point, try to instigate a stampede of dozens of dinosaurs because they figured that by having a lot of robots stampede towards this fleeing robot, that robot would surrender. It's a little bit more detailed, but I don't want to get into that too much. So it's pretty juvenile. It's all about action, robots, dinosaurs. I'm sure boys would love it. If I had read this when I was a boy, I might have enjoyed it, but now there are just a lot of issues with it that I just cannot ignore them. Yeah, so it's okay. No, it's not okay. Don't try. Don't be tempted. If you love Asimov and you think this is somehow more of what you, he's dead and he's not writing anymore. If you want more of Asimov's books, don't go here. And I can tell you there's a lot of Asimov's books. The guy was prolific. He wrote many, many works. So I'm sure that you can find better things if you want to sort of scratch an itch of robots. So don't read that. Then the second book here is When the Star Kings Die by John Jakes. You may not recognize the name. John Jakes was not a very successful science fiction author. He started his career as one and wrote, among others, this book, but I guess it wasn't received too well, and he stopped writing science fiction and later became a very successful author of historical fiction. He focused mainly on the USA, its formation, the Revolutionary War, and the Civil War later on. I've got those books too, still unread, but he was much more successful writing that kind of stuff. However, I think he might have given up too early. It's not that bad. It was entertaining. So what is this about? The Star Kings are a group of super powerful human-like, well, maybe not really human anymore, but we're talking about many, many years in the future, far away future, and the universe has been colonized and lots of planets have been settled, and there are these Star Kings who rule for 1,000 years. Many of them, I don't know, maybe 50 or so? Not sure how many Star Kings there are, But these Star Kings have an unnaturally long life, and nobody really knows how they became like that, but they are revered as almost gods, basically. And because of their long life, people treat them as super special god-like creatures. Yeah. And the Star Kings die. That's the title. So what happens here? For some reason, the Star Kings start dying or getting sick and becoming weak and fragile, and it's not supposed to happen. And that's the underlying situation in the book. Our main character is a former police person who finds himself in jail after a case gone wrong. He's then broken out by his former friends and is then sent on a mission to find out the source or the cause of the Star Kings dying off. There is a faraway planet where something is going on, a revolution, secret organization, something uprising. The main character is being sent over to that planet to investigate and probably find out what is going on. And along the way, he meets up with a girl who's a spy. Then there's a chance encounter with the leader of that revolutionary movement. He doesn't really know who that is at first, but he reveals himself later on. And together they have an adventure involving space monsters that they can ride like horses. Okay. It's more like a medieval sort of fantasy tale that takes place in space rather than real science fiction. It's not bad. The plot goes on pretty quickly. It's only 160 pages long. A lot of stuff is happening. We see intrigue, we see betrayals, we see a bit of romance, but it's not distracting. Overall, it's alright, it's decent. It's not like blowing anybody's mind, but it's entertaining. If you want to read something from the 60s when it was written, you could try this. It's not a complete waste of time. That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching my episode 25. Let's go on to episode, well, 50. Why not? I'm going there for sure. I don't see any reason to stop. All right. See ya.